Welcome to another episode of Relatively Famous, the podcast where I, Chip White, interview relatives of famous people. Now, my famous relative is Vanna White of Wheel of Fortune. She's my sister, and we're a pretty close-knit family. And if you're looking for a great family vacation, I suggest you go to visitmyrtlebeach.com. That's our hometown. It's a super friendly family area with 2,000 restaurants, 90 world-class golf courses, 60 miles of pristine, amazing beach. It's super family friendly. They are sensitive, kid friendly areas and businesses that cater to sensitive and autistic kids. And I suggest, again, go to visitmyrtlebeach.com. That's visitmyrtlebeach.com and plan your great family vacation. And back to family. Today's episode, I'm super excited. Not only is the guest Vanna White's son, he's my nephew. Today we're going to meet Nikko Santo Pietro. Nikko has done what few people have been able to do. He went viral and is trending off the charts as Vanna's hot son. We're going to find out where this came about and how this came about today as we interview and find out more about Nikko Santo Pietro.
Relatively Famous Podcast with Chip White.
Nikko, welcome to Relatively Famous.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I kind of did a little bit of the intro. You are my nephew, and this is awesome. This may be the third longest conversation we've ever had. I don't know. It's, time and distance has made it where we never really sit down hardly ever in the same room and talk. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, it's great to reconnect, and I'm so happy to be on the show/podcast and really looking forward to diving in and chatting about all things.
Yeah, me too, because it's going to be fun. Now, look, let's just start with, you have done what few people do. You went hugely viral and have been trending off the charts as Vanna's hot son. So walk us through how it happened and what's it like going. I mean, lots been happening. Kind of fill me in on that because it's fun to watch this happen to you.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of preparation that's gone into it. It doesn't really seem like it, but I work really actively on my Instagram and other social media channels. I've been camera ready. I am camera ready. So the opportunity to get in the kitchen with my mom for a video was great. Obviously, she's my mom, and we've got great chemistry. So I think that came across on the camera. And I love to cook. So it just was the perfect storm where I had been, ready for being on camera. And, a lot of, when we go way back to who I used to be and who I am today, it's just taken a lot of hard work. It's been me going into school, and I used to get really bad grades, and then I ended up really turning up the volume on my education and graduating with high marks. I graduated summa cum laude at Oregon State University. So anybody who knows me will tell you that I've got a hunger to succeed. As far as entertainment goes, that's kind of been in my sights for a long time. My Instagram channel name is Nikko Show, so that's Nikko Show. And if you notice, I don't have technically a show, but I've always felt the need and the desire to be on camera. So I had that, let's call it a manifestation when I created that username. So when the video went viral, I truly didn't think, oh, this is going to be a viral video. I just was there to cook with mom, and it was great.
Yeah, I've checked out your Nikko Show Instagram. You've played characters. You've done like the Italian dude, and you've been doing that for a while. So it was, I don't know if I'm saying this right, like. What made this particular one all of a sudden go viral? Because it's not like you did one video and it's like, oh, look, it went viral. You really, like you said, you work hard on your social media presence.
Yeah, a friend, I had dinner with a friend the other night, and she was just saying that, Nikko, you're never afraid to reinvent yourself. And I've always kind of looked at it as a risk, right? When you go ahead and you're a farmer one year, and then the next year you're doing produce in the produce industry for Melissa's at a corporate job, and then the next year you decide to go complete 180 into real estate, and you're publishing your entire life. I didn't really realize what that took, or to have the strength to say, you know what, I'm going to switch gears. It's always just been me, driven by my passions and what gets me going, and seeing the next best opportunity, that has gotten me to now have this viral video with Mom, where Newsweek, Entertainment Tonight, 20 major publications have released articles about the video. And I'm so flattered. I'm so honored. It's been quite the journey, and we have a few other things in the works that will be coming up in the next few weeks. So I don't know. Is this another area of switching gears? Is the real estate thing going to stick? Are we going to go full into entertainment? These are all questions that I have for myself, and just kind of navigating it day by day. But I've always kept an open mind. So yeah, I've tested a bunch of different things. And to people who are out there who maybe are scared to be themselves, to release content that they think is authentic to themselves, to share what's going on in their lives on a daily basis, I will have to just say, just do it, because you're going to start somewhere and you're going to end up somewhere, and where you start is not where you end. So go ahead, give it a shot. If you want to be one person one day, wake up and share it with the world. And if you want to be someone else at the next day, do that as well. You just keep being authentic to yourself. It's not a fault. It's actually a strength, and it takes strength to do that.
Well, speaking of that, let's kind of go back to the start, because, obviously I've watched you grow. There were times, and I talked to your sister about this, that, my lifestyle was not conducive to being a great uncle. And I'm trying to make up as I get older, and it's been amazing watching you. I remember as a kid, what was it like as a kid? When did it kind of dawn on you, like, wait, my mom's kind of way up here in the entertainment world or in television, and the friends I'm hanging out with? Because I remember taking Crawford to Evan Stanley's house, Paul Stanley, and Pam's house for Christmas. And you guys were little, and Santa Claus came over, and just, what's it been like? We kind of go through this, not chronologically, but kind of close. What was it like as young Nikko?
Yeah, Evan still to this day is one of my very good friends. What's it been like growing up with Mom? Obviously, very fortunate. When you take the celebrity portion away, it's she's just a down-to-earth person who's achieved a great level of success in her life. And obviously, growing up with all of my basic needs met and more has been something that I look at now and go, wow, I am so lucky to have had the mother that I have. So looking back, I think when we think about the celebrity part of it, when I was growing up, it was something that it was maybe, how do I say it? I'd say as I have gotten older, I've come to really appreciate the achievements that she's gotten for herself. I look at her, and she's America's sweetheart and has been for 40 years. And I'm just proud to be her son, to be affiliated with the amazing brand that she's created for herself. And growing up was an absolute privilege at every level.
Yeah. What, now, are you and Gigi still close? I mean, that's a stupid question. I know that for an answer, but kind of talk about, the dynamics of brother and sister. Because I talk to your mom probably every other day, every third or fourth day, but we communicate a lot, and she's always been super supportive of me, and I'm the younger brother. You're the older brother of Gigi. What's that relationship like for you two?
I absolutely love Gigi. She lights up the room. Everybody who knows Gigi gets along great with her. And whenever I invite her to events that I'm doing for friend groups that don't know her, she comes in and she makes an impact. Everybody after the events is just so happy to have had whatever conversation it was that day with Gigi. So Yeah, she's an amazing person. I love spending time with her. We don't spend enough time. We live in the same city together. And as you probably know, LA, you may as well be across the country. It takes you kind of like 30 minutes to get anywhere in this city. So with traffic and just how spread out the city is. But other than not seeing her as often as I'd like, we have an amazing relationship. I'm so proud of her as an artist and as a person, and she grows every day, and she might even be coming up on being a better cook than me. I've been so busy with real estate that I haven't had too much time to cook, and now she is just cooking every night. She's sending me pictures of food that she's making, and I'm just so happy to have such a wonderful sister.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to put on my producer's hat, and I'm going to produce the Nikko and Gigi cooking show.
For sure.
Yeah. So, stupid question, but because I think about this all the time. What would you let her tattoo on you, or do you have an idea? Has she tattooed?
If I had an idea that I liked, I would have gotten the tattoo already. I don't have anything at this point in time that I would probably get a tattoo of, but I do want to get a tattoo at some point because I love her so much and she's my sister, and that would be really meaningful.
I'm the same thing. It's like, what do I get? I think I said at one point, if the podcast becomes huge, I'll do the logo somewhere,
There we go.
So you're trending. I know I've had your food. You're an amazing cook. What are some of the things that you really enjoy cooking? What if that was a direction you would go? I know they talked about entertainment tonight, possible restaurants. Your dad George had several restaurants, iconic restaurants in and around LA. What type of food do you think you would maybe open a restaurant as, or what's your favorite to cook?
Yeah, I love Italian. I grew up cooking Italian food. I think it's such a heart-centric food culture. You go in and there's the Nonna cooking, and she's giving you all this food, and you can't eat anymore, but she brings out another plate. I grew up with that culture, and I think that not to just set something in stone, but if I had if I had a restaurant, I also think it would be a lot more than just a restaurant. I think that aside from just the cuisine, I think it would be really about the culture, a place where people can come and feel at home, a place where people could feel a sense of community, a place where people could see a show. So maybe the floor plan is that the kitchen's in the middle of the restaurant and there's glass everywhere, and you see your steak drop on the floor and a cook put it back on the cooktop. I mean, not literally, but what happens in kitchens is just crazy. But I'd love to have that be like a lively, amazing place. Great music, DJs during the day, during the morning, maybe a coffee shop type of vibe that transforms into something very cool in the evenings. I'd love a place where I could take my friends and my clients and feel really happy in a place, something with great lighting, wonderful ambiance, and a culture of excellence, which I think is what my father created when he did Santo Pietro's, which was it's the equivalent of any major restaurant today that has a popular brand. It was the spot when it was open, I think up until around the early 2000s or mid 90s. It was the place that all the celebrities would go. It was one of the best Italian cuisines that you could get in the city of Los Angeles. He had 8 locations, and he's still an amazing chef, and I love to eat his food today. Yeah, it's something that I think I would approach more from like a cultural perspective. I want to create a culture of excellence among the employees, and I'd also like to create a place where people feel really at home if I did do a restaurant. What do you think if I was going to name the restaurant? What do you think a good name would be, Uncle Chip?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Because as you're talking about that, all I'm picturing in my head is The Bear, the TV show The Bear. I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know if you want to see the kitchen, man. Those guys kind of go off. Yeah,
Totally.
that's a good question. What would you name that? Have to think about it. And I was also thinking about the comedian John Panetta. I don't know if when he talks about going to Italy and, wanting to order, and they go, "Oh no, we're going to bring you food first," and he's like, "Oh my God, he was in heaven,"
Yeah.
that whole thing thinking. Okay, so restaurant. Let's talk a little bit about when you were younger up to teenagers and going to Myrtle Beach. Those are some huge memories for me because Crawford would come down, fireworks. What was that? Because that's a complete different culture from LA at the time. You guys would come spend a month at the beach. What was that like for you, and do you miss going there?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't know if I went back if it would be the same as I experienced it as a child, but I can tell you some really fun stories. I mean, we used to be there 6 weeks every summer during school break, and we're talking North Myrtle Beach, which people who think Myrtle Beach, they're thinking, the big pier and the Ferris wheel and all that stuff. This is like small town Myrtle Beach. And to be in such a cozy place where mom grew up, and she's just got so much love and adoration from her fans there. I remember just the people there are so down to earth. I mean, you go anywhere in the South and it's hi, how are you? Yes, sir. No, sir. Just yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. And it's like it's a whole nother world when you step away from Los Angeles, where everybody here is maybe not as forward, and they're not waving to you as you're driving in your car type thing. But in Myrtle Beach, it is that way. So I think experiencing that cool, quaint culture was like a bubble for me when I was a kid, and it was a safe bubble. It was a place where I could go out past dark and go hang out with my friends and go to the beach and go to the sand and get together and, shoot off a couple fireworks illegally and just have an absolute blast. And I think every year we did it, we would scale the fireworks show, because I think we loved, we used to have a place that was, I don't know, maybe it was in a 20-story building, and the building kind of curved around and faced the water. And there was hundreds of people living in this unit. And during the summers, everybody would be on their balcony at night because it was beautiful weather, and they'd have a glass of wine or they'd have some dinner or something. So we'd go out and we'd do some fireworks and we'd get applause. So every year we would always level up the show. And I remember one year I saved up all year for the fireworks in Myrtle Beach. And me and I believe Crawford and my other cousin Dylan, we ended up buying like a big piece of plywood. I don't think it was like 8x4, but it was probably that size. And we went and we bought a bunch of fireworks, and we bought tape and we bought wicks. And I remember jerry rigging the $700 worth of fireworks to go off all at once. And it was, we had some loud ones to start to bring everyone out on the balcony. And then we had massive ones. And I remember, I mean, this is all super illegal, right? Like, you can't light fireworks on the beach in Myrtle Beach. So I remember putting the plywood thing down. We had it all lined up. We had all the fuses bound together, and it was going to be this amazing show. And we go out to the beach and we put it near the water, and we go and we light it. And we kind of run away, and we went and we sat down like we were just spectators, right? Like we were innocent spectators. So we lit it on fire, and I remember the police came, everybody roaring applause after this was done. It was so amazing and fun. And then, the police came, and we just looked like bystanders. So I think we were really smart back then. We knew how to play it cool. And that was the fireworks in Myrtle Beach. Also, the sweets. I mean, there was Painter's ice cream. There was Krispy Kreme donuts. Every night we'd go out to dinner, and we'd have an amazing dessert at one of our favorite dessert spots. And we'd walk around, I believe it's Main Street. And we used to go and just have such a great time. The evenings in the summer in Myrtle Beach, the weather's perfect, and everybody's just happy to be there. Really great place. I think the firework thing was a major tangent, but yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank you for turning Crawford into a pyromaniac on that. He's for years, man, it'd be like the same thing. So I know that you went to Arizona for college. You went to Oregon. You were in Missouri as a farmer and a baker. Kind of, talk about life after high school. Kind of fill us in what Nikko did, because you've had a pretty, like you said, reinventing yourself a lot and a pretty amazing journey.
Yeah. I would say, after high school, I went to University of Arizona, and I started with the goal of studying business. And there, just a little background on me. So growing up, I grew up with fruit trees. My dad, back to the restaurant tour and the gardens and the people and the culture. I grew up around that. I grew up around growing our own food and cooking it in the kitchen and sending people home with bags of lemons or produce, whatever we were growing at the time. So that was really deep in who I am, that agriculture side. So when I was in college, I was studying business, and I started with a bunch of friends. I started watching all of these farmer documentaries, and I found out that the average age of a farmer, I think back then, was 68 years old. And my first thought is, well, who's going to feed us? So I went on a long journey, a 6-7 year journey, studying agriculture, living on farms. Like you said, I was in Missouri, I was in Oregon, I was in the Virgin Islands. A lot of that was homesteading while I got my degree online. Oregon State University has an amazing online program that I participated in. So I was able to actually get my degree fully online. I was never on campus, and it allowed me to be actually practicing agriculture, which was the goal of the program. So a farmer could get their degree while also being in the field, versus if you're living in a dorm and you're studying agriculture, maybe not as impactful as if you are actually in the field. So my job was get out on the farms, learn about farm life and culture. And I had some absolutely beautiful experiences out on these different farms in Oregon and Missouri, just really down to earth people. And now that I'm talking about it, it kind of makes sense. I mean, mom's a small town girl. She's grew up in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina before there was a lot of the locations and attractions that there are today. So I think part of my core is also just that simple person. So I loved being out on the farms. I loved being in these rural areas and forming friendships that were deep and meaningful. And I really just had the best time. And like I said, I call those my formative years. I think without those years, I wouldn't be the person who I am today. And I kind of did the whole travel thing before work thing. So obviously was getting my degree. That was a prolonged process. I think I took an extra year to do that. And all the while was following my farming passions. And that led me to a bunch of really cool places and travel and lifestyle things. It was great.
Yeah, I don't know if when in your childhood growing up, when you guys would go to the beach on Main Street, if she would show you your great grandfather, our mom's father, had strawberry fields. He planted and sold strawberries on Main Street in Ocean Drive. It is now North Myrtle Beach. There's I think Greg Knowles theater is there now, but we grew up with strawberry fields, so maybe it was kind of in your DNA to
Yeah,
farm.
for sure. She had told me about that. I didn't know it was so close to Main Street, and that also goes to show how much the real estate there has appreciated and evolved. If they were growing strawberries on Main Street,
Yeah,
think about mom and her childhood and where she grew up. I mean, Main Street today is filled with, you've got Dukes and Hoskins and all of the spots you walk down, and it's lively, and I'm sure the real estate values probably reflect that. But yeah, going from strawberry farming on the main boulevard to now all of the popular places that you see today, times change, times evolve. Mom
oh,
comes from humble beginnings, humble background, and it's just like it kind of makes me emotional to think like about her goals and where she was and where she is now, and the journey that she's had, and hopping in a U-Haul without any opportunities out west, and just getting in the car and driving out and making it work and bussing tables and doing 100+ auditions before something stuck. And she's just a great person. I love her so much.
yeah. It where the strawberry fields were, there was a literally a 3-room, 4-room shack, a kitchen with a hand pump for water, a living room with a potbelly stove, 2 bedrooms, and an outhouse shack with a tin roof, and all that was off of Main Street. That was our grandparents' house, your great grandparents' place, which is now a Kroger's and the theater and strip malls, and amazing how it's changed. And speaking of real estate, if you ever want to go to Myrtle Beach, I'm sure that Mike King at King One Realty would love to have you as one of his salespeople.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Now,
I'm sure I'll be back out there at some point.
yeah. Okay, before we do the real estate, bread making. You are an amazing bread maker. You were doing that for a while, I think, in Missouri. What led to that, and do you ever miss that simplicity of that?
Yeah, so when I was out on the farm in Missouri, I watched it all starts from documentaries, right? Like all these major changes. I'm like watching a documentary, and I forget the name of it, but it's about bread making, and they talked about how simple sourdough bread is. You've got three ingredients. You have water, salt, and flour. So with three ingredients, you can make some of the most amazing bread in the world. And I thought, you know what, I really want to master this. So I spent the next year, as I was studying and working on the farm, perfecting my sourdough recipe, which got really refined over that year. I'm a perfectionist at some level. I don't really like to call myself that, but I do like excellence, and I like making sure that the things that I'm doing have impact and value. So I put my best foot forward with everything I do, and it was the same thing for my sourdough recipe. So I ended up testing all these different recipes, methods, folding, oven temperatures, lid on, lid off with your Dutch oven. And finally, I arrived at what I felt was one of the best sourdough loaves ever. And I ended up actually traveling Europe for 80 days to see if my bread could stand up to these great European eateries. And what I found was that my bread was really quite good. So I ended up making this for some friends, and we were having dinner, and I used to have dinner parties out at the farm, and we would all cook, and I would share this bread, and everyone's like, Nikko, this is like the best bread ever. I want to buy your bread. So I thought, okay, this is really interesting. Obviously, I'm an entrepreneur. So when I see an opportunity where there's demand, I noticed that that's something special and something rare. So when people are knocking down your door to get something that you have and that you own, you've got a business. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to test this out, and I'm going to go mega strong on this launch. We were gearing up towards the holidays. I think it was August around the time that I sold my first loaf. And I'm thinking, okay, Thanksgiving's coming up, Christmas is coming up. People are going to be really not worried so much about being gluten-free at this point in time. I thought, how can I rapidly scale this? And, it kind of happened organically, but I'd say subtly in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, how can I grow this quickly? Because I'd like to really try. So I ended up selling my first 4 loaves on Facebook. I used to be active on Facebook. I still am active on Facebook, but that's where my business really launched. So I posted, I said, hey, just bake some sourdough bread. Some of my friends had heard of it. So I said, I'm selling 4 loaves tomorrow, thinking, okay, we'll see, what's up. And then I said, also the bread includes free delivery, because I thought a big part of the advertising was actually getting in front of my clients, shaking their hands, just saying, hey, here's a loaf that I baked for you. I thought it would give them a good feeling, and I thought it would really propel my business. And who doesn't want convenience, right? That's how Amazon built their empire, is through convenience and quick timelines. So I did my sourdough baking business where it was free delivery. So the first 4 loaves sold. I thought, you know what? That's crazy. I was like, that's great. Okay, so I scaled to 6 loaves, and then I scaled to 10 loaves. And then I moved off the farm and into a house in town that had 2 ovens in it, because I didn't have enough oven room to bake 10 loaves of bread every day. So I baked 15 loaves, then 20 loaves. Then I called an electrician and bought 2 ovens that were put in my basement. My landlord approved it. They said, no problem, you can put the ovens in. So I had 4 ovens in the house, and ended up, at the height of it, I was baking 60 loaves a day. I had to hire an employee to help me in the mornings bake this bread. Now, I think that the reason I did all that was, number one, it was a really cool experiment to see how to scale a business quickly. And number 2 was that it gave me a really great sense of fulfillment. And I think anything I will ever do will always give me a sense of fulfillment. I think that without that, what's the point? I think it would be better to be fulfilled working an hourly job that you're satisfied with than to be making all the money in the world and to be doing something that you don't align with in your core values. So ended up scaling the business, selling 60 loaves a day. And I remember one of my clients said, I had a terrible relationship with my daughter, and your bread brought us together. I offered her a loaf of your bread. I brought it by her house, and we broke bread together and resolved our issues. She said, bread is your ministry. This is like, it really is amazing. So I think for me, it was like the bread, the butter, the flavors, the everything. It was just like, how could you not be happy when you eat this bread? So yeah, that was a really fun time. And I'm sure if anyone's watching this from Missouri, they're definitely missing Nikko's Bread. That was the company's name. And yeah, so I think cooking and baking and all that's it's been deep in what I do.
Well, it's still fluttering back here. Nikko's Bread make a comeback, and I think that people will be the most surprised, especially if they're new to watching this and they haven't watched some of the other stuff, that you're a Hollywood celebrity's kid. You've gone to school, but you were a farmer, and I don't want to harp on that a lot but it still fascinates me that you went and did all these years of farming. What was the toughest and what was the most joyous of the farms and the agricultural products produce that you did?
That's an easy one. I'd say the toughest was Angry August in Oregon. That's what the farmers would call it. I was an intern on this farm in Oregon, and I was working manual labor on the farm full time, and that was weeding, that was planting, that was seeding, that was watering, that was everything a farmer would do. So it was an internship program. Meanwhile, I'm studying and getting my degree and also working on this farm. And Angry August rolls around, and the farm that I was at was a newer farm, so they were really hitting on all cylinders, and they were pushing to really produce, so that way they could turn a profit, keep their farm alive, whatever it was. So I remember Angry August came around, and that's a farm that I actually felt the need to leave, which was something I look back on, and I'm really not a quitter. And I'm not someone to just like throw in the towel. So that kind of still lives with me. But it got to the point where my back literally gave out in the field, and I was like, fell literally to my knees. It sounds so dramatic, but we were working so hard. We're lifting up, 40-pound buckets of potatoes. We're hoeing. We've got the sun beating down on us. It's hotter than hell. And, it was just at the point where my body couldn't physically do it. And I had to look at the situation and just make the decision to leave. And at the time, it was right. And looking back, I wish that I would have stayed another 2 weeks just to try and stick it out. And the owners of the farm were so gracious and still invite me there. And we still have a relationship, and I support their farm and buy their products. But that was by far the toughest farming season that I had. And I would say the best times that I had, I mean, I can't think of any times that weren't great. It was friends. It was poetry nights around the fire with cornbread, cooking in the fire in a cast iron pot, eating this cornbread that really was mildly seasoned, but for whatever reason was like the most delicious thing that you've ever had. It was like slightly burnt, but you're sitting under the moon and you're eating this cornbread. And I think that there was just some energy in my life at that point in time with farming that carried through everything I did. It was in my relationships. It was in the way I was thinking about the world. And those were some really magical times.
Now, speaking of relationships, you said that, mentioned that you and Evan have been friends forever. I know his musical career is going off. And I know that you played piano, you were doing music for a while. And even though you're, the internet's heartthrob at the moment, Vanna's hot son, I know you have a relationship with a musician. Kind of talk about your music, past, future, and Issa's music.
Yeah, sure. So happy to chat about that. I've played piano on and off for years, and at the moment, unfortunately, not playing. I've been so busy with real estate. But going back to the music thing, yeah, I originally met my girlfriend. We've been together for a year, and she's an incredible musician, and we would sing and songwrite together towards the beginning of the relationship, and that was kind of as I was getting into real estate. And yeah, I just haven't had the time, but she's a great artist. Her name's Issa, Easae. You could check out her music on all platforms, Spotify, Apple Music. She's got an Instagram as well. So yeah, she's just super talented. And yeah, the music thing for me, I always have loved music. And maybe one day I'll take a deeper dive into it once I have a bit more resources to to grow that area of my life. But right now it's just all hands on deck with real estate and everything going on with entertainment.
Cool. Hopefully by the time people see this 4 or 5 years down the road, Evan will have been a guest, because I keep poking him to be on because I'm really interested in his story. And maybe when he's on, I'll say, hey, you know what? You and Nikko need to do, you need to call him up on stage to play during one of your shows. Now, real estate, dude, you're crushing it. I know you haven't been doing it very long, but you are crushing it, and you really, again, use that social media, your platforms, to push it and talk about it. Run us through what's going on with it and what we can expect possibly in the future with you.
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting. I think social media has kind of influenced the way I'm looking at real estate right now, in a positive way and in a special way. I would say that real estate, I'm an agent that's licensed in Los Angeles with global connections with top producers. If you go to any major city, I know the agents there and have relationships with them. So Instagram has really given me a global platform to refer business out and to work with people in different states. So I've kind of leaned into that with, I just recently got back from Chicago. I was there. I shot some content at the St. Regis, and had an agent who allowed me to use her listing to shoot at, and just made really great content there. I was in New York for a period of time and shot some content of some great inventory there in New York. And actually had someone reach out about one of the places we shot in New York and was looking to purchase a place. And for me, that's actually, if I can refer them out to a person that I trust, I would actually get a referral fee as an agent. That's how that works. So, my business could go in a bunch of different ways. I could make global connections with real estate agents and then run my business as kind of a referral-based business. Or I could really just focus here in LA and would be focusing mostly on the inventory here. But I like I said, I can't pin myself down. It's so hard for me to. I've always reinvented myself. I always tried new things and pushed the envelope on what I'm doing. And, I'm just dabbling. I think I'm exploring. I'm exploring with the real estate stuff globally. I've been really focused on LA real estate. I'm door knocking almost every day. I've got sales softwares where I can keep track of all my clients and incoming leads. I have a website. It's my full name, NikkoSantoPietro.com. That's like a lead generating magnet that I pay to host from a great provider. And, I've hired social media managers to help me create content out here. So really looking to always just double down on what I'm doing, which is why I'm reinvesting in my own business. And, fortunately, I've had the money from real estate itself to be able to do that. And this is all kind of part of the vision. Last year was my first year in real estate. We're looking at a terrible market. We're looking at the lowest transaction volume since the 1980s, and was able to close four deals, 5 deals if you count the one transaction that had 2 lots. And that's huge. If you are in a competitive city with real estate, I mean, our entry level price points are $1.5 million. I mean, it's amazing that I've been able to do so well in this first year. Part of me thinks it's luck, and the other part of me thinks that I have been nonstop working and out there and putting myself out there and doing lunches every day and door knocking and using social media to attract clients and to use my website to bring in people who I would never have contact with. So I'm really casting a wide net when it comes to building out my lead pipeline for real estate. I'm putting in the hard work, and yeah, it's really paying off. So I think that could be, that could be a thing too. I could be just really focused on real estate. And as these entertainment opportunities are coming up, it's really got me thinking bigger. I've always wanted to be, in front of the camera. It feels so natural to me. And, there might be just a window here where I can make that happen. So just really thinking big, thinking outside the box, and pushing and working hard. And every day it's just, it's apply yourself and see the results.
Yeah, well, there's real estate shows, there's cooking shows, there's, I love the idea of you and your sister cooking. You can do, LA travel, you can do global real estate. Hopefully, we're seeing around the world, people do check us out, believe it or not, in countries around the world. Maybe someone will say, hey, I need to come to LA and buy a house or this or that. But, I'm looking forward to seeing where you're going. To harp really quickly one more time, what's been like when Issa found out you're like the internet heartthrob? How is that playing out at the moment for you?
Yeah, I think, obviously it's been a lot of me just reassuring her that she's so special and my one and only. I'm getting so much attention for being attractive, and the comments are all, will you marry me and this and that. And I would imagine for her, it's probably a lot to see such an outpouring of attraction towards her boyfriend. But we just took a trip to Chicago together, and she's just handling it so well. And she's actually really happy for me and excited to see where this all goes.
I'm super excited for you. What are some of the charitable, how do you look, like you said, you've been extremely blessed. I've been extremely blessed. I donate to joedance.org for pediatric cancer. What are some of the things that you look for, or where you want to put your energy and money?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and that's really the core focus for me is build the empire and then give back. And I would love to make an impact in a bunch of different areas. I always just, personally, I just hosted an event where we did a group trash pickup in Venice. I'd love to get into helping the homeless here in Los Angeles. That's a really big challenge that this city faces. And just coming up here in a week, actually from today, we're going to be doing a St. Jude's letter writing. A lot of kids are sitting in their hospital beds and are coming up on the holidays, and they can't leave their beds. And I think that those kids would love some inspiration and some well wishes. So we're going to get together here and going to be doing a letter writing and just, talk with these kids and write them something nice for the holidays, because, I think that, I think there's so many areas where people can get involved, but you just got to figure out what makes sense for you. And what makes sense for me is really just like a shotgun approach. Like, I love helping. It feels so good to help, and it feels so good to bring people together. I'm at that age, I'm 30 years old, where a lot of my friends are thinking more about giving back in charity. I think 20s were all just kind of me. And then 30s, now that I'm rolling up on my 30s, is like, okay, well, I've kind of done the me thing. How do we bring people together? How do we build community? How do we give back? So I'm really actually looking for more opportunities to do that. And that's been kind of a focus over the last 6 months on what things I could do to give back. So yeah, just doing those things and still open to ideas.
Well, I think they're going to come about your presence on the internet, and the future is going to open up for you. And St. Jude's is awesome. Eve and I both St. Jude's. Again, I do a lot of Joe Dance because I was with the film festival, and I love how they are really central. I want to ask one last question, and then we're going to wrap up. What did I not ask you, or what do you really feel you want to share that we didn't talk about?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground. Yeah, I think just if you're looking to buy a house in Los Angeles, sell a house in Los Angeles, obviously, please reach out. I would love to help you. You could do that in a bunch of different ways. So, you could do that through Instagram. It's Nikko Show at NIKKOSHOW, or you could go to my website, NikkoSantoPietro.com, and just reach out, and I'd be happy to help.
Cool. Well, Nikko, I love you, and I'm so happy to spend this time with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in I don't know, pretty soon, either Texas or South Carolina or LA or somewhere. But thank you again for your time today, and I'm super proud of you.
Always great chatting, Uncle Chip, and thanks so much for having me today.
Nikko, thanks so much for being on the show. It's so much fun talking to my nephew. Now, I want to thank Nikko, and I want to thank you, the viewer, the listener. I'm truly humbled that you spend your time with us. I'm humbled that Nikko spent his time with us. If you happen to be famous or related to someone famous, or you know someone that's related to someone famous, reach out to us. I'm always looking for guests. I want to thank Nelco Comics and Nelco Media for making this possible. You heard Nikko and I talking about our hometown, my home and Vanna's hometown, North Myrtle Beach, and the Myrtle Beach area, and what fun he had and the memories he had. So if you're really looking for a great family vacation, I want to thank and hope you'll support our supporter. That's visitmyrtlebeach.com. Again, that's visitmyrtlebeach.com. Sincerely appreciate everyone being here. Thank you.
You've been listening to Relatively Famous with Chip White. Please like and subscribe to Relatively Famous with Chip White.